States across the United States are passing laws. The United States Supreme Court has been dancing around this. And in fact, probably Tom Ruskin knows a whole lot more about this than I do. He can fill us in on, although our opinions may differ, we'll find out. Tom is the president of CMP Protective and Investigative Group and a former highly decorated New York Police Department detective investigator. His website, cmp-group.com, and his Twitter is Tom Ruskin. Tom, welcome to the program.
Hi, Tom. Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us. What is the status of the legal right, before we get into whether or not there should be one, the legal right of citizens to photograph police officers?
Well, I mean, in most states, under the First Amendment of the Constitution, there is no state law that prohibits them. We now know that Illinois, Oregon, Massachusetts, and Maryland have state statutes that they feel, or police feel, or interpret the law that they can arrest someone for videotaping or audio taping something involving them or a prosecutor.
Right. Now, I've noticed also there's been a conspicuous lack over the last few months of video and audio tape coming out of the TSA. There was a period of time there where, every other week there was some new outrage of some little kid getting groped or, grandma being dumped out of her wheelchair kind of thing. Is the TSA enforcing this now? Are they, I've been through an airport twice in the last weekend, but I didn't see anybody pull a camera out. I didn't try it.
To my knowledge, they refrain and they have the right to tell you to stop photographing, but that's based on, what I think most people would understand is you don't want them photographing security procedures. You don't know who's doing it. And there, I could understand where there would be a legitimate concern against public safety.
No, so in other words, they're saying somebody's photographing the way that the TSA is running the line and the way the equipment is organized so that they can plan, how to do the end run around the equipment when they're going to invade the airport or something.
Correct.
I get that.
We wouldn't know. So you can't differentiate based on.
So in that case, you believe the security is more important than freedom.
I think security. I think most Americans would agree that they don't want to compromise our security at the airports.
Actually, I think most Americans would probably disagree and think that the freedom to videotape the TSA and doing what they're doing trumps the security threat that might be represented by a hijacker or a crazy videotaping them. It's not like it couldn't be. If somebody wanted to secretly videotape. Seriously secret, somebody, a well-financed terrorist, they could do it in a way that the TSA would never know about it. And you and I both know that. You've got you've got TV cameras now that are the size, of a dot. They're a fraction of the size of a button. But you're suggesting that, if I have this right, that police officers in general should have the right, as it were, not to be videotaped when they're doing their jobs. How is it that somebody who is a public employee working for the public should be allowed to arrest a member of the public for taking a videotape of these people who are on our payroll?
Well, the reason that they have the right is because the state statutes in those 4 states allow it, and that's how it's been interpreted by prosecutors as well as cops.
Right, but that doesn't make it right, does it?
I'm not saying that the law is correct, and I'm not saying that with court challenges coming up, that it may not be overturned. We both know that bad cases or bad laws come out of bad cases. So I think in the future, right now in Illinois, you have those 2 cases where police were either audio taped or videotaped, and they made arrests. And one person's facing up to 15 years in prison. For
simply videotaping a cop?
For audio taping a conversation where she went into a police precinct to complain about another cop that was dissatisfied with the way that the police were handling the case and trying to talk her out of filing the complaint. She turned on her cell phone, which was also an audio recorder. They found out and they arrested her for a Class 1 felony, which is punishable by up to 15 years in prison.
What do you think about that?
I listen, if it's on the books, the police aren't allowed to interpret the law.
No, I understand
They're allowed to make the arrest.
I understand.
So I think eventually, what I personally feel, eventually the law will probably be overturned or better statutes will be written from the original law and its original intent.
And the original intent was what?
The original intent was not to, I mean, in certain states, they have what they call consensual conversations.
Right.
There's either two-party consent or one-party consent.
Right.
In New York State, where I'm based out of, it's one-party consent. If you're on a telephone call with me, if I'm taping it, I can tape it. In certain states, like California and some of these other states that we just discussed, it's two-party consent.
Right. You have to inform the other person that they're being taped before you can continue with it.
And get their permission.
Right. And get their permission. And but should that apply to public employees?
Well, if that's the way the statute's written, then they would have justifiable cause to make an arrest. Then it's up to a prosecutor or a court to determine if the law or if the arrest was a suitable arrest.
What about like the Rodney King incident? There you had 5-6 police officers beating this guy. Should that person have run up and asked each one of them for permission to tape under California dual consent?
Obviously, they didn't, and obviously it led to the conviction of certain police officers in that case and civil rights violations.
But I mean, the law has come into place since then. So under the current law, is that what somebody would have to do? Is run up and ask each officer if they could video?
If we want to go by the strict statute of the law, yes.
Yeah, that somehow seems bizarre to me. But
it seems bizarre to me too, because let me tell you something. In my years as being a police officer in New York City and a detective and so on and so forth, I would have never had a problem with a camera following me.